Luca had always been curious about the unknown. As an experienced researcher, he often ventured to remote places, studying ancient civilizations, alien species, and the mysteries of the universe. But nothing in his career had prepared him for what he would encounter on the planet Toritha, a world far from Earth, where life was strange, and the rules of nature were not as they seemed. The sky above Toritha was a deep violet, the twin moons hanging low, casting a surreal glow on the lush alien landscape. Luca's mission was simple: to study the creatures that roamed the planet, particularly the rare and reclusive species known as the Vlorians. These beings had a reputation for being dangerous, not because of their weapons, but because of their strange, deadly skin. Legends spoke of their unique trait: anyone who touched them would perish instantly. It was a curse, or so the stories went. No one really knew for sure. But Luca, being the scientist he was determined to find out more. He had heard rumors of an uncontacted Vlorian girl living in the forests of Toritha, and he couldn't resist investigating. As Luca trekked through the thick woods, his heart raced with excitement. He had no idea what to expect, but the stories of this mysterious species were enough to spark his curiosity. He had heard of their deadly skin and their ability to heal themselves in ways humans couldn't understand. They were said to be both beautiful and terrifying, and most of the time, they preferred to stay hidden from the rest of the galaxy. After hours of wandering through the alien forest, Luca finally stumbled upon a clearing. In the center of the open space stood a figure, a woman, but not like any human woman he had ever seen. She was tall and elegant, her skin a pale blue with a hint of purple, like the night sky just before a storm. Her long, silver hair shimmered in the soft light, and her pointed ears, small and delicate, peeked out from beneath her locks. She was standing motionless, her eyes closed, as if listening to the hum of the universe. Luca felt an overwhelming sense of awe as he watched her. He knew immediately that this was the Vlorian girl he had been searching for. Despite her beauty, Luca couldn't shake the chill that ran down his spine. He remembered the legends, the ones that warned about the deadly curse. He had read all the warnings and studied the old texts, but standing here, face to face with this mysterious alien woman, the danger felt more real than ever. For a moment, neither of them moved. It was as though time itself had stopped. Luca took a hesitant step forward, his mind racing with conflicting thoughts. Should he speak? Should he try to approach her? He knew that one wrong move could cost him everything, but he couldn't turn back now. He had to know the truth. "Hello." Luca's voice echoed softly in the stillness. The Vlorian girl opened her eyes slowly, revealing large, glowing irises that seemed to see right through him. She didn't speak, but the way she tilted her head suggested she had heard him. Her expression was unreadable, calm yet wary, as if she had encountered humans before, but never one like him. Luca's heart raced. He wanted to take another step, but he remembered the stories, the ones that warned of the curse. According to the texts, if a human touched a Vlorian, they would die instantly from a fatal reaction. It was as if their skin was toxic to any being outside their own race. But why? Why would an alien race have such a deadly defense mechanism? Luca took another step forward, carefully watching her reaction. The Vlorian girl didn't move, but her eyes followed his every movement. He couldn't help but feel an intense pull towards her, an almost magnetic attraction. He reached out his hand, his fingers trembling slightly. His scientific curiosity pushed him forward, even as a voice in his head screamed at him to stop. But he couldn't stop now. He was so close to uncovering something that no one had ever understood. When his hand was just inches from her skin, something strange happened. A sudden burst of energy radiated from the Vlorian girl. Luca felt a sharp pain shoot through his body, as if his veins were on fire. He gasped, stepping back in shock. The pain was overwhelming, like every nerve in his body was being torn apart. The Vlorian girl flinched, her eyes narrowing as if in pain. But then she did something unexpected. She quickly withdrew into the shadows of the forest, disappearing as quickly as she had appeared. Luca stood frozen, clutching his chest. The pain was subsiding, but his heart was still racing. He was alive, but barely. His body felt weak, as though he had come too close to something he wasn't meant to understand. And yet, the question burned in his mind. Why had he survived? He looked at his hand, still trembling from the touch, and couldn't help but wonder if the curse had somehow spared him. There had to be an explanation. Was it possible that something in him was different, or had he simply been lucky? Luca's mind was racing, but his body was exhausted. He needed to rest, to process what had just happened. But one thing was certain: this encounter had changed everything. The legend of the Vlorian girl was not as it seemed, and Luca was determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. With one final glance at the spot where the Vlorian had vanished, Luca made a vow to himself. He would find her again, and when he did, he would uncover the secrets that had eluded scientists and explorers for centuries. There was something more to this alien girl, something that could change everything. And Luca would be the one to find out what it was. Luca sat in his small research camp, staring at the notes scattered across his table. The events of the previous day kept replaying in his mind, haunting him. He had come to Toritha to learn about the planet's mysteries, but nothing had prepared him for the strange encounter with the Vlorian girl. His touch had almost killed him, and yet he was alive. Why? What had happened? He ran his fingers through his hair in frustration. The pain he had felt after touching her skin was still fresh in his memory, but the question of why he had survived lingered in his thoughts. Was he different from the others? Was there something special about him that allowed him to escape the curse? Or had the Vlorian girl's powers been different from what the legends described? He needed answers. Luca decided to visit Jalor, an alien historian who had lived on Toritha for many years. Jalor was one of the few who knew the true history of the Vlorians and their deadly curse. Luca had heard of him before, and it seemed like the perfect time to seek his expertise. After packing a small bag, Luca set off toward Jalor's research station, a place he had passed through only once before. It wasn't far from his camp, but it was hidden in the deep forest, surrounded by strange, towering trees that looked like something out of a dream. The air was thick with the scent of alien flowers, and the sounds of creatures Luca couldn't identify echoed in the distance. When Luca arrived at the research station, Jalor was in his study, sorting through ancient alien texts. The historian's thick glasses rested on the bridge of his nose, and his fingers moved quickly as he flipped through the pages, his mind focused on something far away. "Luca, I wasn't expecting you," Jalor said, looking up with a welcoming smile. His deep blue skin glowed faintly under the light. "What brings you to my humble abode?" Luca explained the events of the previous day, the strange Vlorian girl, the deadly touch, and his survival. Jalor listened intently, his face growing serious with each word. When Luca finished, Jalor leaned back in his chair and sighed. "This is no simple matter," Jalor said, his voice filled with a mixture of concern and curiosity. "The curse of the Vlorians is ancient. It's a mechanism of protection, one that has kept them hidden from the rest of the galaxy for centuries. The curse ensures that no one, not even another alien race, can touch them without suffering grave consequences." Luca frowned. But why? Why would an entire species be cursed like this? Jalor pushed his glasses up and ran a hand over his chin. The curse was not of their own making. Long ago, the Vlorians were peaceful beings, living on their homeworld without any fear of outside threats. But that changed when a ruthless alien race called the Gorvans sought to enslave them. Luca raised an eyebrow. "Enslave them?" "Yes," Jalor replied. "The Gorvans were an aggressive species, and they saw the Vlorians' healing powers as a valuable resource. They attempted to conquer Toritha, but the Vlorians fought back fiercely. In the end, the Gorvans couldn't conquer them, but they sought revenge in a twisted way." Jalor paused, as if considering how much he should reveal. "The Gorvans cursed the Vlorians, making it so that any touch from an outsider would bring great pain, even death. This curse was their way of ensuring that no one could exploit the Vlorians' power ever again. Luca felt a chill run down his spine. So the Vlorians were punished for defending themselves. Jailor nodded. Yes, and they've been living with the curse ever since. No one knows how to break it, and no one has ever survived a touch from a Vlorian. Until now, it seems. Luca's mind raced. But I did survive. I touched her, and nothing happened. I'm not sure why, but I need to know why I survived when no one else has. Jailor's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. That's the question, isn't it? You see, there is an old legend among the Vlorians, one that speaks of a human who could break the curse. It's a myth, passed down through their people. Some believe it's just a story, but the fact that you survived may be proof that it's true. Luca was silent for a moment, trying to process what Jailor had said. You think I might be the one in the legend? The human who can break the curse? It's possible, Jailor said slowly. But we know so little about your species. Humans are unique in ways we can't fully understand. Maybe there's something in your genetic makeup that makes you immune to the curse, or perhaps your connection to the Vlorian girl is different from anything the Vlorians have experienced before. Luca felt a strange sense of hope. If the curse could be broken, if he truly was the one to do it, then it would change everything for the Vlorians. And for him. But the thought of what that might mean for him and the Vlorian girl, Viora, weighed heavily on his mind. I have to go back, Luca said, determination in his voice. I need to see her again. I have to know if this is real. Jailor stood and walked over to a shelf, pulling down an ancient scroll. He unrolled it carefully and showed Luca an old, faded illustration of a human and a Vlorian standing together, their hands touching. The image was unclear, but there was a sense of peace between them, something Luca hadn't expected from the dangerous myth. Be careful, Jailor warned. You may be the one who can break the curse, but there are others who will want to stop you. The Gorvans, or even other factions of the galaxy, might try to use this power for their own gain. Luca nodded. I understand, but I can't turn back now. I have to help her. With a final glance at the scroll, Luca gathered his things and set off toward the forest once again. The mysteries of the Vlorian curse were far from over, but now he had a purpose. The touch that had nearly killed him was no longer just an accident. It was the key to unraveling an ancient curse and uncovering a truth that could change the fate of an entire species. Luca's journey back into the forest felt different this time. The uncertainty of the past few days was gone, replaced by an overwhelming determination. The stories about the Vlorian curse had been nothing but legends before. Now he was part of something bigger, something no one had ever dared to understand. His touch had somehow defied the curse. It was almost impossible to believe, yet every moment since his encounter with the Vlorian girl, Viora, had only deepened his need to uncover the truth. As he walked deeper into the forest, Luca's mind was full of questions. He couldn't stop thinking about her, her beautiful alien features, and the strange connection he felt when he was close to her. He had only touched her once, but the memory lingered. What if she was the key to unlocking a new future, both for her people and for him? He had to find her again. The sun was beginning to set as Luca made his way through the thick underbrush, the light casting long shadows across the ground. He had no idea if Viora would even welcome him back. After all, their first meeting hadn't exactly gone as planned, but he was determined to try. He reached the clearing where he had first seen her, but she was not there. The space was empty, eerily quiet. Luca stood still for a moment, scanning the area. She had vanished quickly last time, but he didn't want to give up that easily. He had to believe she would return. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned around quickly, but there was no one there. The forest seemed alive with sounds he didn't understand. The rustle of leaves, the calls of creatures he couldn't see. But then, just as quickly, he heard it again. The soft crunch of footsteps, moving toward him. Luca's heart raced, and he instinctively took a step back. Was it her? From the shadows of the trees, Viora appeared, her figure tall and graceful against the dimming sky. She was even more striking up close, her skin a soft blue with a hint of purple, glowing faintly under the evening light. Her silver hair shimmered like starlight, and her eyes, those deep glowing irises, locked onto him as if she had been waiting. Luca swallowed, feeling a strange mixture of relief and anxiety. "Viora," he said, his voice soft, yet filled with emotion. I didn't know if I would find you again." She didn't respond right away. Instead, she stepped closer, her gaze examining him carefully. Her silence was unnerving, but Luca couldn't bring himself to look away. "I'm sorry," Luca said, his voice full of regret. "I didn't mean to hurt you when I touched you before." Viora finally spoke, her voice calm but filled with a quiet intensity. "You didn't hurt me, but your touch, it's not like any other." She paused, her expression unreadable. "Why are you here, human? You should be afraid of me, like everyone else." "I'm dangerous." Luca stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "I'm not afraid," he said, his voice firm. "I need to understand. I don't know what happened when I touched you. I should have died, just like the stories say. But I didn't. Why?" Viora took a step back, as if weighing his words. The air around them seemed thick with tension. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice full of confusion. "No one has ever survived the curse. No one." "I don't know why either," Luca admitted, feeling the weight of the situation. "But I can't turn back now. I want to help you, Viora. I think there's a way to break the curse, maybe even end it forever. But I need to know more. I need to understand what this all means. Can you help me?" For a long moment, Viora said nothing. She looked away, her expression distant, almost sad. Then, slowly, she nodded. "I don't trust easily," she said quietly. "But I feel something in you. Something that's different. Maybe you can help me." Luca's heart lifted at her words. This was it, the chance he had been waiting for. "I'm not leaving until I figure this out. Together, we can find a way to end this curse. For you, for your people, and for me." Viora's eyes softened, though doubt still lingered in them. "You don't know what you're asking, human. This curse is ancient. It's not just a curse, it's a prison. My people have been trapped by it for generations. Breaking it might destroy everything. The Gorvins, the ones who cursed us, they might come for us." Luca took another step closer, his voice filled with determination. "Then we'll be ready. I'm not afraid of the Gorvins. I've seen what they've done, and I know that we can stop them. If we break this curse, we can free your people. You can be free." Viora stood silently, her eyes studying him. The wind whispered through the trees, and for a moment, Luca thought she might disappear again, just like before. But then, with a small, hesitant nod, she spoke. "Perhaps you are right, but it won't be easy. If the Gorvins are truly watching us, if they know what we're trying to do, we'll be in grave danger. I know the risks," Luca said, his voice steady, "but I'm willing to face them. For you, for your people." Viora studied him for a moment longer, her gaze sharp and calculating. Then finally, she gave him a small smile, one that was almost imperceptible, but it was there. "Then let us begin," she said softly. Luca couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. He had made the right decision. Together, they would uncover the truth about the curse and the strange bond between them. And perhaps, just perhaps, they could change the fate of the Vlorians and the future of their world. Forever. The days that followed were filled with quiet determination. Luca and Viora worked together in the hidden depths of the Toritha forest, away from the prying eyes of the world. The forest had become their sanctuary, a place where they could explore the truth behind the ancient curse that had bound Viora's people for so long. Luca's mind was constantly filled with questions. Why had he survived the deadly touch that should have killed him? What made him different from the others? And why did Viora feel a strange sense of connection to him, a human she had just met. Each day they grew closer, and with every shared moment, Luca began to understand more about her. She wasn't just a mysterious alien. She was a living, breathing being with fears, hopes, and dreams. The curse had shaped her life, making her isolation a constant struggle. She had been forced to live in the shadows, unable to form lasting relationships with anyone because of the deadly danger her touch posed. But now, something had changed. Luca's touch had somehow broken the cycle of pain, offering her a glimmer of hope. It was as if the curse had been waiting for the right moment, for the right person, to come along and lift its hold. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest in a soft golden glow, Luca stood in front of Viora, his heart pounding. The air was thick with anticipation, the moment of truth finally upon them. "I think it's time," Luca said quietly, his voice steady despite the racing of his thoughts. He had been preparing for this moment for days, but now that it was here, the weight of it settled heavily on his shoulders. Viora looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "You're sure about this?" she asked softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Once you touch me again, there's no going back. I don't know what will happen. This could either break the curse or make it worse." Luca nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I have to try. I can't live with the doubt, and neither can you. I believe we can change everything. I know it." Viora hesitated for a moment, her gaze drifting to the ground. The fear in her eyes was unmistakable, but when she looked back up at Luca, something had shifted. It was as if she had come to a decision that would change everything. "Then I will trust you," she said quietly, her voice full of an emotion Luca couldn't quite place. Slowly, cautiously, Luca reached out toward her. His hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. Every part of him screamed to be careful, to pull back. But he couldn't. Not now. Not when he believed so deeply that this was the key to breaking the curse. His fingers brushed lightly against Viora's arm. The touch was gentle, almost tentative, as if he was testing the waters. He braced himself for the pain he had been told would come, the burning sensation, the feeling of his life slipping away. But there was nothing. For a moment, nothing happened. The air seemed still, as if the entire forest was holding its breath. Luca's heart raced in his chest. Was it working? Was this the moment they had been waiting for? Then, to his surprise, Viora's skin began to glow. It wasn't the harsh, fiery glow he had expected, but a soft, warm light that seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. The marks on her skin, the ones that had always been there, signs of the curse's toll, began to fade. Slowly, the pale scars disappeared, replaced by smooth, unblemished skin. The transformation was subtle but undeniable. Luca couldn't believe his eyes. The curse, it was actually lifting. Viora gasped, her breath catching in her throat. It's working," she whispered, her voice filled with awe and disbelief. Her eyes were wide with wonder as she looked at her own hands, the skin now soft and free of the painful marks that had plagued her for so long. Luca's chest tightened with emotion. He had done it. They had done it together. The curse was breaking, piece by piece. He could feel it in the air, in the connection between them. It wasn't just his touch that had made the difference. It was something more. It was the bond they shared, something neither of them had fully understood until now. Viora stepped back, her eyes never leaving him. "But why? Why is this happening?" she asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I don't know," Luca admitted, his voice full of awe. "Maybe it's because I'm the one who was meant to break the curse. Maybe it's because we're meant to be connected. I don't have all the answers. But I know that this is real. We're changing something here, Viora." Viora's eyes softened, and for the first time since Luca had met her, he saw a genuine smile appear on her face. It was a small smile, hesitant at first, but it grew as she stepped closer to him. You might be right," she said, her voice filled with a new sense of hope. Luca couldn't help but smile back. There was a warmth in her presence now, a lightness that had been missing before. It was as if the weight of the curse had been lifted, and in its place was the possibility of a new beginning, for both of them. But even as they stood there, a sense of unease still lingered in the back of Luca's mind. The Gorvins, the ones who had cursed her people in the first place, had not been forgotten. They would not give up so easily. There was still much to be done, and Luca knew their journey was far from over. But for the first time since he had arrived on Toritha, Luca felt a sense of peace. They had made a breakthrough. The curse was breaking, and there was no turning back now. He was no longer just a researcher. He was a part of something far greater, something that could change the future of not just the Vlorians, but the entire galaxy. "Let's keep moving forward," Luca said softly, his voice filled with determination. "Together, we can end this. Together, we'll rewrite the future." Viora nodded, her expression serious but full of hope. "Together," she whispered. And with that, they stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. The curse had been broken, but the journey was just beginning. The days that followed the breaking of the curse were filled with uncertainty, but also a new sense of hope. Luca and Viora spent more time together, cautiously testing the limits of the new connection between them. Viora's skin remained clear, her body no longer marked by the curse's painful grip. For the first time in years, she felt free, unburdened by the constant fear of causing harm to those around her. But the peace they had found was fragile, and they both knew that there were still many unanswered questions. Luca could feel it, an invisible thread that now connected him to Viora, a connection he hadn't anticipated. Their bond wasn't just physical, it was something deeper. Every time he touched her, he could sense an energy flowing between them, as if they were two halves of something greater. It was as though their destinies were intertwined in a way neither of them fully understood. One evening, as the sun set behind the distant mountains, Viora sat on a large stone near the edge of their small camp, her eyes gazing into the horizon. The soft breeze carried the scent of the alien plants that surrounded them, and Luca could see that she was lost in thought. He approached her slowly, unsure of what to say. She had been quiet for the past few hours, and he could sense that something was on her mind. "Viora," he called softly, careful not to startle her. "What's going on? You've been distant." She turned her gaze to him, her eyes reflecting the light of the setting sun. For a moment, she didn't speak, her lips pressed together in thought. Then, with a sigh, she spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. "I feel different now," she said. "The curse is gone, yes, but something else is happening. It's like a part of me is awakening that I didn't know existed before." Luca sat down beside her, his curiosity piqued. "What do you mean? What's awakening?" Viora looked at him, her expression serious. "Ever since the curse broke, I felt stronger, more aware. It's as though the power that once held me back is now flowing freely within me. I can feel it, Luca. It's like a well of energy that I never had access to before." Luca frowned, trying to understand. "Is that a good thing? Should we be worried?" Viora shook her head. "I don't know. It feels strange, like I'm on the edge of something I don't fully understand. But there's also a part of me that feels empowered, as though I can do things I never thought possible." Luca couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and concern. The curse had been a prison for Viora, but now that it was gone, it seemed as though she was discovering a new side of herself, a side that could be dangerous if not carefully controlled. He reached out to her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I believe in you, Viora," he said. "Whatever is happening, we'll figure it out together. You don't have to face this alone." Viora gave him a soft smile, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Luca. I don't know what I would do without you." For the next few days, Luca kept a close eye on Viora as she began to experiment with her newfound abilities. At first, it was subtle. She could sense things around her more clearly, hearing the faintest sounds in the wind and feeling the energy in the air. Her senses seemed heightened, sharper than ever before. But as time passed, the changes became more pronounced. One evening, as Luca was tending to their small campfire, Viora stood in the clearing, her arms outstretched, her face tilted toward the sky. Luca watched as a strange energy seemed to swirl around her, a soft glow enveloping her body. She was no longer just the alien girl he had met. She had become something more, something powerful. Viora. Luca called out, his voice filled with concern. She turned to him, her expression calm, but her eyes held a depth of intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. "It's happening, Luca," she said softly. "I can feel it. The energy within me is growing. It's not just in my body. It's all around me. It's like I'm connected to everything here, the forest, the planet itself." Luca took a cautious step forward. "Is this dangerous?" Viora closed her eyes, and for a moment, it seemed as though the entire forest had fallen silent. She stood there, completely still, as if listening to the pulse of the world around her. "I don't know, but I can feel the power growing stronger every day. It's as though something is calling to me, telling me to embrace it." Luca stepped closer, trying to keep his voice steady. "Embrace it? What do you mean by that?" Viora opened her eyes, and there was a gleam in them, an intensity that Luca hadn't seen before. "I think I was always meant to wield this power. The curse was just a barrier. Now that it's gone, I can feel everything. The life force of this planet, the energy of the stars above, I can tap into it all." Luca was stunned by her words. He had always known that the curse had kept Viora isolated, but he hadn't expected her to suddenly have access to such vast and mysterious power. His mind raced with possibilities. If she could control this power, it could change everything for her people. But what if she couldn't control it? What if it overwhelmed her? "Viora, are you sure you're ready for this?" he asked, his voice filled with caution. "This power, it's not something to take lightly." Viora looked at him, a calm resolve in her eyes. "I don't know if I'm ready, but I have to try. For my people. For you. I've lived my whole life in fear of what I could do, but now I can feel that I have the chance to make a difference." Luca understood then. This was more than just a personal journey for Viora. It was about her people, her race, and the future they could build together. She wasn't just breaking free from the curse. She was beginning to unlock the true potential that had been hidden within her all along. "Then we'll face it together," Luca said, his voice filled with determination. "Whatever comes next, we'll handle it. You're not alone in this." Viora nodded, her expression softening. "Thank you, Luca, for believing in me." As the night drew on, the glow around Viora began to fade, and the forest slowly returned to its peaceful state. But Luca knew that things had changed. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but they were no longer just fighting against a curse. They were fighting for a future, and the power within Viora was the key to everything. The days following Viora's awakening to her newfound powers were filled with uncertainty. Her strength, once bound by the curse, had now been unleashed, and with it came a sense of responsibility that weighed heavily on both her and Luca. The energy she could feel coursing through her was unlike anything she had ever known, and although it was empowering, it also felt dangerous. The fear of losing control loomed over her, casting a shadow on the hope that had come with breaking the curse. Luca watched Viora closely, noticing the quiet moments when her eyes would drift into the distance, as though she was sensing something far beyond their immediate surroundings. Her powers were growing, but with that growth came new risks. Luca knew that they had to find a way to harness and control this power before it consumed them both. One evening, as the two sat around their campfire, the flickering light cast long shadows on the surrounding trees. The night was quiet, but the stillness felt uneasy. Viora sat with her arms crossed, her brow furrowed in concentration, as if she were searching for something in the air itself. Luca could feel her tension, and it troubled him. She had become more attuned to the world around her, but there was a sense of danger in the way she absorbed everything. "You've been quiet tonight," Luca said softly, trying to ease the silence between them. Viora didn't respond right away. Instead, she glanced up at the sky, her eyes scanning the stars as if looking for an answer. "I can feel them," she said quietly. "The Gorvins, they're coming." Luca's heart skipped a beat. He had known the danger was out there, but hearing Viora speak so confidently about the Gorvins made it all feel too real. The Gorvins were ruthless. They had cursed her people and would stop at nothing to control the power she now possessed. Luca had always known that their journey would not be without danger, but now, the reality of it hit him hard. "How do you know?" Luca asked, his voice steady, though his mind raced with thoughts of what could be coming. Viora turned to face him, her eyes dark with fear. "I can feel their presence. It's like a storm gathering on the horizon. I've sensed them before, but now, it's different. They know what we're trying to do. They won't let us succeed." Luca clenched his fists. The idea of facing the Gorvins filled him with a mix of anger and fear. He had seen firsthand how cruel they could be, and the thought of them coming after Viora was unbearable. They couldn't let them succeed. They couldn't let the Gorvins take what they had worked so hard for. "We need to be ready," Luca said, his voice firm. "We'll fight them. Together." Viora looked at him, her expression softening. "I don't want to drag you into this, Luca. You don't have to fight my battles. You've already done more than enough by helping me." Luca shook his head, determination in his eyes. "I've made it this far, and I'm not going to back down now. You're not alone in this, Viora. We've come too far to stop now. We'll find a way to defeat them, no matter what it takes." The next morning, they began their preparations. Viora trained herself, learning to control the power that flowed through her with each passing day. It was not easy. The energy within her was wild, untamed, and often unpredictable. But with Luca's guidance, she began to harness it, channeling it in ways that felt more natural, more controlled. She practiced controlling the flow of energy, focusing on creating small bursts of power without losing herself in it. It was a slow process, but it was progress. As the days passed, the threat of the Gorvins grew stronger. Viora's senses told her they were getting closer. The forest, once calm and peaceful, now felt like a ticking time bomb. Every rustle of leaves, every crack of a twig underfoot seemed to echo with danger. They were being hunted, and Viora knew it. One afternoon, while Luca was scouting ahead, Viora sensed something different. A presence. It wasn't just the usual hum of energy she had grown accustomed to. It was darker, colder. She felt the hairs on the back of her neck stand up, and a chill ran through her body. The Gorvins were near. She didn't hesitate. She reached out and connected with Luca through their bond, sending him a quick mental message. "They're here. The Gorvins are close. We need to move. Now." Luca's response was immediate. "I'm on my way. Stay hidden." Viora didn't need to be told twice. She quickly moved into the shadows, her eyes scanning the forest for any sign of movement. The Gorvins were ruthless hunters, and she knew that if they found her, they would stop at nothing to capture her, or worse. Minutes later, Luca returned, his expression grim. "They're close. We don't have much time." Viora nodded, her heart pounding. "I can feel them. They're not far." Luca grabbed her arm, pulling her to her feet. "We need to leave the camp. We're too exposed here. We'll move to the caves on the other side of the ridge." Viora didn't argue. She trusted Luca's instincts. Together, they moved quickly through the forest, their senses on high alert. Every step they took felt like a risk, but they had no choice. The Gorvins were closing in, and they needed to get to safety before it was too late. As they made their way through the dense trees, the sounds of the forest seemed to grow louder, more oppressive. The air itself felt heavy with the weight of their impending confrontation. Viora's heart raced as she fought to maintain control over the power inside her. She could feel it growing stronger, pushing against her as if eager to be unleashed. But she knew she had to wait. They couldn't risk her losing control. Then, just as they reached the edge of the ridge, they heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps. The Gorvins had found them. Luca looked at Viora, his eyes filled with resolve. "Get ready. We fight." Viora nodded, her hands glowing with the power that surged within her. She could feel the storm inside her, stronger than ever. But this time, she wouldn't let it control her. This time, she would use it to protect the only person who had ever believed in her. As the Gorvins emerged from the trees, their eyes cold and calculating, Viora and Luca stood side by side, ready for whatever came next. The battle for survival had begun. The tension in the air was palpable as Viora and Luca stood side by side, ready to face the Gorvins. The Gorvins, known for their ruthless nature, emerged from the trees with cold, calculating eyes, their movements smooth and deliberate. Their tall, muscular frames were a reminder of the power they wielded, and the gleaming weapons in their hands sent a shiver down Luca's spine. But he stood firm, determined not to back down. Viora's heart raced as she felt the surge of energy building within her. The power that had been awakened when the curse was broken now swirled within her, both a gift and a danger. Her hands glowed faintly, the energy crackling around her as she focused on maintaining control. She couldn't afford to lose herself in it. Not now, not when so much was at stake. The Gorvins stopped a few yards away, their eyes never leaving the two of them. The leader of the Gorvins, a tall figure with piercing red eyes and dark armor, stepped forward. His voice was deep and cold as he spoke. "So, it is true. You have broken the curse, Vlorian. But it will not save you. We have waited too long for this moment. And now we will claim what is ours," the leader said, his voice filled with malice. Viora clenched her fists, the energy inside her growing stronger with every word the Gorvin spoke. She could feel it, their hatred, their desire to control her, to control the power that now flowed freely through her. But she wouldn't let them. Not after everything she had been through, not after all the pain and suffering. "I will not let you take control of me again," Viora said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "The curse is gone. You no longer have any power over me." The Gorvin leader smirked, his expression hardening. "You are foolish to think you can stop us. You are nothing without the curse. We are the ones who hold the power now." Luca stepped forward, standing beside Viora. "You're wrong," he said, his voice calm but firm. "You may have tried to control her once, but you won't succeed now. We've come too far. We won't let you destroy everything we've worked for." The Gorvin leader's eyes narrowed, and he raised his weapon. "Then die with your defiance." Before Luca could react, the Gorvins lunged toward them, moving with surprising speed. The air crackled with tension as Viora's energy surged, and she raised her hands, focusing her power. She sent a wave of energy toward the Gorvins, sending them stumbling back. The ground trembled beneath them as the force of her power reverberated through the air. But the Gorvins were resilient. They quickly recovered, and the leader raised his weapon to strike. Viora's heart pounded as she struggled to maintain control of the power within her. She could feel it, the dangerous potential of the energy that surged inside her. One wrong move, and it could consume her entirely. Luca stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the Gorvin leader. He had no weapon, no special powers like Viora. But he knew that his strength came from something else, his determination to protect her. "Viora, trust me," Luca said, his voice low but filled with urgency. "You can control this. You've done it before." Viora looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. She could feel the energy pushing against her, urging her to let it go, to unleash its full power. But she knew that she couldn't. She couldn't let it control her. "I'm not sure I can, Luca," Viora whispered, her voice filled with doubt. "You can," Luca said firmly. "We've come this far together. You're not alone in this." With those words, Viora closed her eyes, focusing on Luca's voice. She felt his presence beside her, steady and unwavering. Slowly, she began to calm herself, the chaotic energy inside her starting to settle. She could feel the power pulsing through her, but this time, she didn't let it overwhelm her. Instead, she let it flow, guiding it with a steady hand. The Gorvins, sensing the change, hesitated for a moment. They didn't understand what was happening, but they could feel the shift in the air. Viora's power was different now. It wasn't just raw, untamed energy. It was controlled, focused, and ready to be unleashed with precision. With a final deep breath, Viora raised her hands again, and this time, the energy she released was more controlled, more powerful than before. The Gorvins were thrown back, their bodies crashing to the ground as the force of her power hit them like a wave. The leader of the Gorvins staggered to his feet, rage burning in his eyes. "This isn't over, Vlorian. We will return." But Viora stood tall, her hands still glowing with the energy she had mastered. "Not if I have anything to say about it," she said, her voice calm but filled with the strength of someone who had finally found control over her destiny. The Gorvins, realizing they were outmatched, retreated into the forest, their figures disappearing into the shadows. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. Viora and Luca knew that this was only the beginning of a larger struggle. As the dust settled, Luca turned to Viora, his eyes filled with pride and relief. "You did it. You controlled it." Viora nodded, her expression softening. "I couldn't have done it without you, Luca. You helped me find my strength." Luca smiled, relieved that they had survived this first confrontation. "We did it together, and we'll face whatever comes next together." Viora looked at him, her heart filled with gratitude. For the first time, she felt free, not just from the curse, but from the fear that had held her back for so long. She had found her true power, and with Luca by her side, she knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead.